Spider-Man is one of the most popular comic book characters around, but in the MCU, he has no shortage of enemies. And based on the trailer for Morbius, he's still dealing with the bad PR problem that popped up during Spider-Man Far From Home. It seems likely we're in store for a major crossover event that would bring Morbius and Spider-Man together on the big screen for the first time. Time travel, the multiverse, and magic are all well and good, but we know what the MCU really needs is more vampires. I want to suck your blood. No, not that kind of vampire? Okay. There are a few things more satisfying than spotting a subtle comic book Easter egg in a Marvel movie, like noticing that Peter Parker's principal is the grandson of Howling Commando Jim Morita in Spider-Man Homecoming. But when it comes to the Morbius movie trailer, the hints of a potential crossover weren't exactly subtle. It's less like not noticing Ant-Man and more like failing to see that you're about to be stepped on by Giant Man. In case you missed them the first time around or need a refresher, let's take a look at the trailer from Morbius. The hands-down biggest clue is the graffiti of Spider-Man. However, all that tells us is that some version of Spider-Man exists in this fictional universe, and it actually looks like the version of the character from the popular PS4 Spider-Man game. But it's the word atop the painting that's actually a way bigger clue because it ties into what we saw during Far From Home. J. Jonah Jameson announced to the world that Peter Parker is really Spider-Man and blamed him for causing the drone attack perpetrated by Mysterio and his companions. So this means that Spider-Man not only exists in the same world as Morbius, but it's likely that it's specifically the Spidey portrayed by Tom Holland in the MCU. Saying that's a big deal is putting it mildly. Especially for a long time, Disney and Sony were so strict not to even hint that their cinematic universes might overlap. And then there's the fact that Michael Keaton is part of the Morbius cast. We all know that in Spider-Man Homecoming, he played the role of Adrian Toomes, an illegal weapons dealer better known as the Vulture. Even though Peter Parker ruined his daughter Liz's experience at the homecoming dance and his arms business, both equally tragic of course, the Vulture apparently considers them even, presumably out of gratitude for not letting him burn into a pile of ashes after their big battle. The Vulture played dumb about Peter's true identity during the mid-credits scene when questioned by Matt Gargan. In the Morbius trailer, Michael Keaton appears wearing a prison uniform. So if he's reprising his role as Adrian Toomes, then it appears this film takes place after Homecoming, since he's still in prison. Duh. It hasn't been officially confirmed that Keaton is the Vulture in Morbius, but it seems likely at this point, especially when combined with the graffiti I mentioned earlier. Plus, it was a very intriguing statement made by Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige after Sony and Disney managed to work out a deal regarding Spider-Man. He said that our favorite web-slinger is the only hero with the superpower to cross cinematic universes. At this point, Marvel is either getting really heavy-handed with hints about a crossover, or they're pulling off some epic-level misdirection. I don't know about you, but I'm really hoping it's the first option. Nowadays, it seems like plot leaks and spoilers are a dime a dozen, and I always take them with a grain of salt, but major reveals do happen. Many Game of Thrones fans had the 8th season spoiled twice, once by a thorough plot reveal leaked online, and a second time when it turned out that the horrible ending was in fact true. So while I'm skeptical about this alleged leak from a throwaway Reddit account, it's possible that some of the information in it is correct, and that we'll see more hints of an upcoming meeting between Morbius and Spider-Man. The source asserts that actor J.K. Simmons will reprise his role as J. Jonah Jameson and present a new story like he did during Far From Home, further connecting the two universes. They also claim that Keaton will indeed be appearing as the Vulture and will make a reference to the blip. Personally, I just want to know if the time people spent in non-existence counts towards their prison sentence, so hopefully that's addressed in the movie. According to the source, Toomes and Michael Morbius meet in prison, while the latter is still trying to gain control over his new powers. They escape and Toomes leaves after strongly hinting about starting up the infamous team of Spider-Man villains, the Sinister Six. Oh, that's awesome. As I said, I'm not 100% convinced that all of this is true, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are indeed more hints of a Spider-Man crossover in Morbius. Especially since we all know that another Spider-Man movie starring Tom Holland is going to be released during the MCU's Phase 4. So if Morbius and Spider-Man are going to meet up, this seems like the most likely opportunity by far. This alleged leak mentioned that Morbius will set up a Sinister Six movie, which people have been predicting for quite some time. This is a popular and iconic team of supervillains, so it's not surprising that fans wonder if they'll show up every time a new Spider-Man movie is announced. But would Morbius be a member of the Sinister Six? In the comic books, Dr. Michael Morbius is a scientist afflicted with a debilitating disease that he attempts to cure, with a lot of electricity and vampire bats. I know, it's absolutely stunning this didn't cure him, huh? In fact, it turned him into a kind of pseudo-vampire. As long as Morbius keeps himself fed, he stays in control of himself and can enjoy the beneficial traits of vampirism like enhanced strength and speed. But when he first started facing the consequences of messing with bats and electricity, he struggled to control his hunger and unsurprisingly acted in a villainous fashion, including fighting with Spider-Man. So it wouldn't be crazy to suggest that Spider-Man and Morbius might not get off on the right foot. Morbius would probably believe that Spider-Man caused the drone attack thanks to J. Jonah Jameson, while Spider-Man would see that Morbius is a vampire. Back before vampires sparkled, they were generally pretty feared, so it wouldn't be crazy to assume that Peter Parker would at the very least regard him with suspicion. However, initial misunderstandings aside, it seems likely that Morbius and Spider-Man would work together rather than fight against each other, especially if the Sinister Six is causing trouble. Peter Parker will likely be dealing with the excessive fallout of his secret identity no longer being a secret. He'll have to go from being hailed as a hero to being seen as a villain, which is similar to the transformation Morbius has been through. He was once a brilliant doctor, but now people are really focused on the kind of vampire thing for some reason. Both Peter and Morbius will be seen as villains, possibly even by each other at first. As far as the upcoming Spider-Man movie, details are scarce so far. We don't even know what it's called yet. And knowing Marvel, we'll probably be waiting a while to find out. And even the comic book devotees among us won't have much of an advantage when it comes to guessing what the movie will be about, according to Kevin Feige. He claims that the fallout from Far From Home will be a major influence on the film, but it will be something that has never been done before. That doesn't narrow it down too much, Kevin, but it still gives us some ideas. And I'm just throwing it out there, but Morbius and Spider-Man have never teamed up to tear down the Sinister Six in the comic books. It wouldn't be surprising if Peter Parker needs to lay low for at least a part of the next movie. He's not going to be a popular person with the general public or the authorities after being accused of the drone attack. So I can't exactly see him showing up back at school like nothing happened. If he's on the run, someone like Morbius could potentially help him keep his head down while he works to clear his name. More often than not, in the comic books, these two characters are at odds with each other, so it would be great to see them working together and bonding over being viewed as villains. It's also possible that Morbius could end up interacting with another Marvel hero that's getting a reboot, Blade. Yes, he's a vampire hunter, so it seems like he and Morbius should naturally be at odds with one another. But in the comic books, Blade was understanding when he learned about Morbius's plight, and the fact that he's not a genuine vampire definitely didn't hurt. If Morbius joins the MCU during the third standalone Spider-Man movie, then it's possible he could at the very least make an appearance in Blade. Since we had to wait so long to get vampires in the MCU, it's only fair that we should get as many of them as possible. Regardless of what the details are surrounding the meeting of these two characters, it's obvious that this is going to be a huge deal. After years of keeping their movies staunchly separate, Disney and Sony will forge a connection between their fictional universes. Morbius linking up with fellow kind of vampire Blade is only the beginning of the exciting events that could take place. Let's not forget that there's another movie coming out involving a popular character often associated with Spider-Man. Venom 2 is scheduled to be released in October 2020, after Morbius and before the third MCU Spider-Man movie. It's possible that at the very least we could get some clues that Tom Holland's Spider-Man exists in Venom's universe. As a journalist, Eddie Brock might be able to take a deeper look at the accusations against Peter Parker. Even though Spider-Man wasn't a part of the alien symbiote's origin story on the big screen, it's not too late for these two characters to interact, and there's no shortage of fans who would want to see it. In the Morbius movie, Adrian Ajorna will be portraying Martine Bancroft, the fiancé of the living vampire. She's agreed to spend her life with Morbius, but once he became a living vampire, she decided to figure out how to spend an eternity with him in the comics. So she decided the logical thing to do is to turn herself into an actual vampire, and then do the same to her fiancé. You know what they say? The couple that has terrible ideas together stays together. Or something like that? The couple that drinks blood together? I don't know. Anyway, Spider-Man ends up running into the couple while trying to track down a stolen vial, and the ensuing fight gets heated, especially when Martine ends up taking a wooden stake to the chest. Sure, the story doesn't have an happy ending, but it's one I wouldn't mind seeing play out in the MCU. There's action, drama, and of course, more vampires. There are a lot of great storylines that could incorporate characters most of us are eager to see join the MCU. Before she went full vampire, Martine tried to help Morbius by getting help from the Fantastic Four. Of course, this didn't work out as well as she had hoped, and Morbius ends up battling against the Human Torch and Spider-Man. He also runs afoul of the X-Men, who team up to rescue Morbius' former colleague, Hans Jorgensen, from his grasp. The Fantastic Four and the X-Men are two superhero teams fans are eager to see join the MCU sooner rather than later. So if we're lucky enough we get to see a Spider-Man Morbius crossover, why not add these characters to our wish list too? Sure, this might not happen anytime soon, but I'm hoping we have many years of Marvel movies to look forward to, so I'm willing to be patient. Well, a little patient at least. It's clear that Morbius will have a major impact on Sony's universe of Marvel characters, and will likely change the trajectory of the MCU as we know it. I can't wait to see Marvel's Blade reboot, so if we get another vampire in the MCU, then all the better. Are you hoping for Spider-Man and Morbius to cross paths? Let us know what you think in the comment section, and then click on the subscribe button for more videos from us here at CBR. We'll see you next time.